Annabelle and Marshall first met about 8 years ago in New York City. Annabelle had moved there for college, leaving behind her family in Woodbury, Long Island. And Marshall moved all the way from upstate Buffalo in search of a job. It seemed that fate had somehow united them, because it was soon after that they started dating, and 2 years later ended up getting married. They both rented a small apartment and were trying to make it work. Soon, Marshall got a good job and Annabelle completed her studies. And not long after, did they welcome a new member to their small family, Danny. At first, the couple managed well. But once Danny grew into his toddler years, the parents realized they needed a bigger home. That's when Marshall and Annabelle decided to move to Annabelle's family house in Woodbury, that she inherited a few years prior when her mother passed away. Now, not only would they have a spacious home where Danny could grow up, the small, welcoming community. Danny, now that you're going to have your own room, you'll have to sleep on your own, alright, buddy? Alright, Daddy. Wow, haven't been here since Mom's funeral. This house is still like before. The family rather easily coped into the new environment, enrolling Danny into the nearby elementary school, while Annabelle was busy rearranging the house. Hey Danny, heads up! I got it, Dad, I got it! Looks like we'll have to head in, champ. It might start raining soon. Oh man. It was their first weekend at the house. Marshall and Danny were playing out in the yard when he noticed one of their neighbors pass by. Afternoon, Mr. Peterson. Afternoon, Marshall. How are things going? Great. As Mr. Peterson walked on, Danny walked up to his dad. Mom used to have a crush on him. What? Mr. Peterson? Yep. As the rain suddenly began to pour, Marshall and Danny rushed inside. And as Danny went off to play, Marshall searched for Annabelle, a bit curious and amused by Danny's comment. You never told me you had a crush on that fat, bald old man Peterson. Annabelle turned around in surprise. You don't know how he used to look like when he was 18, okay? And that was back when I was 9 years old. He wasn't fat or bald, for your information. Yeah, sure. Oh, stop, Marshall. How did you even know that anyways? Danny told me. Danny? How did Danny know? Wild guess? Annabelle herself had long gotten over and forgotten about her little secret crush. But it was sure strange, out of all people, Danny would be the one to remind her. How could he know? He had never even met any of her relatives. But whatever it was, Annabelle brushed it off. Sharp on Monday morning, Marshall was to be off on his 2-hour drive to work in the city, and Danny on his way to school. Danny, are you ready? Let's go. Dad, no, I don't want to go in the car. Marshall turned to look at his son anxiously stepping away from their car. Why, buddy? What's wrong? I don't like going in the car. Since when? You used to like it before. Alright, buddy, we'll walk today. The days were going by fine. Annabelle met some new neighbors and easily learned her way around the familiar neighborhood again. Marshall had everything figured out, and Danny too was doing well. It was one afternoon when Marshall had gone to pick him up after school. His teacher, Mrs. Meridew, called him aside for a talk. Hello, Mr. Schultz. How are you? Doing well. How are you? How's Danny doing? Danny is actually doing incredibly well. I was wondering if he gets extra help at home. Well, sometimes I try to help out with his homework and sometimes his mother. Danny's been very impressive. He's the only student in my kindergarten class that knows how to do math at a 3rd grade level. Very smart boy. Mrs. Meridew couldn't stop praising Danny, and though Marshall was impressed himself, he was surprised how Danny caught on to 3rd grade level so fast. Dad, can we have ice cream? Sure, but first you tell me, how did you do your homework? Mommy always helps me. Mommy. After having their little treat for a job well done or a prank cleverly pulled, Marshall and Danny went home. Annabelle, have you been helping Danny with his homework lately? His teacher couldn't stop praising him today. Yeah, I used to, but Danny's been doing so well, he's been doing it all by himself. He doesn't need my help anymore. So it was really him? The whole week had been rainy and stormy, and tonight the rain poured heavily over the roof once again. Danny, come down for dinner. Danny! I'll go see what that Einstein is doing. Marshall walked upstairs to get his son. When he stopped a distance from Danny's room, hearing Danny talking, Marshall peeked inside to see his son playing by the window with his toys. Danny, who were you talking to? With Mommy. Mommy, Mommy's been calling you from the kitchen for so long. Come on, let's go have dinner. Okay, Daddy. I didn't know imaginary friends could also be Mommy. The days in the house were going by. Oftentimes, Marshall caught Danny doing the silliest things, like talking all by himself or staying awake in the middle of the night. What are you doing up, buddy? Mommy woke me up. Looks like you had a bad dream. Mommy's not here. Come on, get in bed. After a week of constant rain, the weather had cleared up just a little. The parents were planning for a fun day out. But it was sometime midday that Annabelle suddenly got a call from Mrs. Merridew, requesting her and Marshall to visit her for a talk, and she seemed a bit off. Annabelle couldn't imagine what it was about, but she and Marshall curiously went after school to see Danny sitting by her table. Yes, Mrs. Merridew, is everything okay? Danny, why don't you go get a book and sit in the classroom? Okay, Mrs. Merridew. As Danny rushed off searching for a book from the shelf, the parents sat down, concerned as Mrs. Merridew took out some pieces of paper. Today I handed out these assignments to my students. I asked them to write about a memorable experience of theirs. All right. Marshall and Annabelle looked at the work. Some kids wrote about a day at the amusement park, or the time they went to an ice cream parlor. But after a moment of silence, Mrs. Merridew took out Danny's work and handed them. Danny wrote about the experience of a painful death. Excuse me? I was just as shocked as you are, Mr. Charles. The parents read Danny's paper, shocked. The day I died, I felt tremendous pain in my head and my nose. I felt a sharp sting in my ribs. My body began to shake. Everything started to go black in front of my eyes, and soon, I couldn't feel the pain anymore. I had died. Mrs. Merridew, I don't understand why Danny would write something like this, but we'll surely have a talk with him. Take care, Mr. and Mrs. Charles. After Marshall and Annabelle got home, they looked at each other not knowing where to start. Alas, they sat Danny down. Danny, you wrote something in Mrs. Merridew's class today. Yes? About death. How did you know all that? I don't know. The parents passed each other a confused glance. All right, Danny, let's not write things like this again, okay? Okay. With that, Danny jumped off his chair and off to his room. Maybe he read it somewhere or saw it on TV. It could be a ton of things. Intrigued by Danny's recent behavior, Marshall felt a little worried for his son. So he started to keep an eye on Danny through his old baby monitor. It was one of these days while Danny had gone to bed and Marshall was in his room reading a book, that he suddenly began to hear a sound from the baby monitor. Startled, he turned up the volume and listened to Danny. I miss you so much, Mommy. Why do you leave me? I don't like staying by myself. Marshall leaned back, returning to his book, when he heard another voice. It was Annabelle. I'm always with you, Danny. Don't be sad. We'll be together forever. Marshall smiled, listening to his wife hum a lullaby to Danny. When suddenly, he was startled when Annabelle walked into the room with a pile of laundry. Annabelle, did you just come from Danny's room? No, I went down to the basement to get the laundry. What? Then who is he talking with? Marshall picked up the baby monitor and tried to listen closely, but hearing no sound, he dropped it and rushed to Danny's room. But to his surprise, Danny was sound asleep. What did he hear? Or did he just imagine it? Annabelle, I swear I heard him talking through the baby monitor, and then I heard a voice reply to him. I thought it was you. What? You must have heard something else. Annabelle put the matter aside, thinking it probably had to have some rational explanation. But Marshall couldn't stop thinking about it. The very next day, while Danny was at school, he went out to buy a camera for his room and install them. Now we can keep an eye on him all night. He's been sleeping fine, Marshall. Why are you getting so worried? It's better safe than sorry. He's been waking up a lot at night. That night, Marshall anxiously waited listening to the baby monitor. But it was silent, and the couple soon went to sleep. But it was towards the middle of the night that Annabelle woke up hearing a noise. At first, she thought Marshall was checking up on Danny, but then she found Marshall sleeping beside her. Curious, she pressed the baby monitor to her ears, shocked to hear a faint humming sound. Mommy, I missed you. I'm here now, sweetheart. I don't want to leave you, Mommy. Hearing her own voice, Annabelle anxiously turned on the camera. To see something in Danny's room, standing with her son. She immediately ran out and barged in, devastated to see Danny climbing the window. Danny, stop! Danny, don't move! I want to go with Mommy, Danny said, holding her hand. Annabelle broke down into tears as she pleaded. Please, don't do this. I'm sorry. Don't take my child. But Danny stepped his one foot out to jump. Danny, no! Danny froze, startled by his mother, as she ran to hold him, but in the process she pushed him aside and slipped from the window herself. Annabelle Zimmerman grew up in this house with her twin sister, Isabel. But it was some time before their 11th birthday that Isabel passed away in an accident, or so everyone believed. But it wasn't the reality. Annabelle had always been jealous of Isabel. She was better at everything than her. Mom, I won the art contest. Wow, Annabelle, I'm so proud of you. Isabel, your painting is beautiful too. How about we hang both of them up? Okay. Although their parents never prioritized one over the other, and they always treated both daughters equally and loved them equally, the bitter truth was that Annabelle didn't feel the same towards her sister. She was jealous of Isabel, and she wished she didn't have a twin. She wanted to be on her own. So it was one day, while the two were playing outside, Annabelle had pushed Isabel out of rage. Losing control of her rollerblades, she slipped onto the road and in front of a car. Hearing the crash, their parents ran out, calling an ambulance. But Isabel passed away from severe injury to her skull and ribs. And though they mourned the death of their daughter, Annabelle heartlessly felt content. But now, after all these years, when even their parents were no more. Annabelle never imagined one day she would meet Isabel again. Hearing a loud thud outside, Marshall got up startled to see Annabelle wasn't beside him. He ran to Danny's room to see him standing all alone by the window. "Danny, get away from there! What happened?" Mommy fell down. Click on the subscribe button and check out more awesome videos on our channel. And don't forget to press the bell icon because you know it's interesting.